Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over the online PDF textbook, AppInventor2 Create Your Own Android Apps by Wolber, Abelson, Spertus, and Looney. We're more than halfway through Chapter 8, which is our President's Quiz, and I went back and double-checked to make sure that everything I had in here was lined up with the way that it was shown in the text. All right, so I'm going to come back in here now and I'm going to see. So I'm on question 3. Now I'm on question 3. There we go. Now we've got all 4 questions. So there's question 1, the one with the FDR. Question 2 with Carter. Question 3 with Nixon. Question 4 with Truman. So we seem that we're iterating our way through, plus our images are correct, which is a lot of progress for us. So it's time to go and be able to check the user's answers. So as it says, thus far we've created an app that simply cycles through questions and answers. It's a great example of an app that uses a list, but to be a true quiz, it has to give the user feedback. As it says, the interface is set up so that the user types an answer into the answer text, clicks the answer button. The app must then compare the user entry with the correct answer using an if-else block, and the right or wrong label should be modified to say that it was correct or that it was incorrect. And they mentioned there are quite a few blocks that need to be added, but it's pretty much what I just told you. All right, so it's in here, and that's going to be our answer button. But before we do that, let's take a look right up above it here, right up in here, and see what it says. So it says that the previous figure demonstrated how the if-else asks the question, if the current question is 1, it's going to make sure that the correct answer was Roosevelt. If it's 2, Carter, 3, Nixon, 4, Truman. All right, we've got all this. Yeah, we've got our next button. That's all finished. So we've got to do our answer button click. So let's go in and try this. That was our next button, so let's collapse that. And we want our answer button now. All right, and what we want to do, as it says, is we want an if-else block in there. It's always good to work your way from the outside and then work your way in, which is what I'm going to do right now. There's an if then else. And it will take that. So I think we have to put that in as just an if then. Then we have to come up here and add the else. There we go. Okay. So if the answer text is going to be equal to, okay, so we've got to put an equal condition in here. All right. So if our answer text dot text, which was right here, so if our answer text dot text is equal to, and we're going to put another select list item in here. That's supposed to be a select list item list. There we go. And that's going to be our get global answer list and our get global current question index. right, if that's the case, then we want to set our label to correct. Otherwise, we want to set it to incorrect. All right. Okay, bring it back in a second. So that's going to be the right-wrong label. So we want to set the right-wrong label text. If we got it right, we want to set it to correct. Otherwise, we want to set it to incorrect. All right, I believe that's everything. Try answering one of the questions. It should report whether you answered the question correctly as specified. All right, test with both a correct and an incorrect answer. You'll likely notice that for an answer to be marked correct, it has to be an exact match, even as far as case, sensitivity, etc. goes. All right, be sure to test things. Also test that things work in successive equations. The app should work, but you might notice when you click the next button, the correct or incorrect still appears there. So we're going to fix that next. But before we do, let's go and take a look at what we've got. All right, so this was Truman. Let's try answering it this way. So T-R-U-M-A-N, click the done button, and we've unfortunately got it in there more than once. Select all, and we'll just type it in manually. And submit. Correct. All right, we'll go to next. Let's leave it at Truman, even though we know it's Roosevelt. Incorrect. So that appears to be working. Let's go back and change that then. Whoops, select all. We'll put in Roosevelt. No, it's correct. This is Carter. And again, notice it has to be an exact match. So if I put in Carter's, it says incorrect. All right. And you see how it's keeping the answer in here, even though we're going to another question. So this is Nixon. That, whoop. Oh, let's go back. So that one should be correct now. Correct. All right. And if we put Nixon's, or Nixon, whatever, it then, whoops, let's work our way through again. It becomes incorrect. So everything appears to be working right now the way it should. So, again, the app should work, but you might notice when you click the next button, the correct or the incorrect still appear, okay, as shown. It's fairly innocuous, meaning it's really not that big a thing, but the app will definitely, the user will notice that kind of an issue. So to blank out the right-wrong label, we'll put the blocks in listed next. So we're going to have to set our text. So we want to make sure that when we first come into our next button, we set both the answer and the right-wrong label text to, the equivalent of what is typically referred to as the empty string. So for our next button, then let's take this one and collapse it. Let's bring our next button back up again. We'll expand that. And we're going to put a couple sets here. So we're going to set the answer text, and the right-wrong label text, both to the empty string. So we're going to set our answer text to the empty string. Perfect. And then let's duplicate that, and we're going to put it right below. And we also want to set the right-wrong label text. Okay, so it's not going to like this one. So we'll keep this, and we'll remove, whoopsie, sorry. want to be able to change this one, but it's not letting us. So I goofed up big time because this is all one block. There we go. So we don't want this. We want our, got the answer text, and we want the right wrong label text. We want to set that equal to this as well. All right, so let's go back to the emulator. And now let's just take it from the top here. All right, so we're going to go next. Notice how those are both cleared out. Next again, and let's take it from the top. Let's answer them all correctly. Roosevelt. And that's correct. We go to next. It all clears out. Carter. Correct. It all clears out. Nixon. It's correct. And it clears. And finally, Truman. Submit, and that's correct. Okay? Now that's all that the author has done in this chapter. That said, when he talks in here, so this is pretty much all the text that we, or the code that we put in. As far as variations, instead of just showing images, we could put in sound clips. The quiz is very rigid as far as what it accepts for a valid answer. All right, we could check in there and provide multiple answers, such as for Roosevelt. Do you want to accept just Roosevelt, or do you want Franklin Roosevelt? Do you want Franklin Delano Roosevelt? Do you want FDR, etc.? We could also transform this, and that's what we'll read about in a later chapter as far as making this multiple choice. Another thing we could do that we're not doing right now, and it's not even listed in here, is we could keep track of how many wrong answers we had and how many right answers we had. Okay? So, as mentioned here, most sophisticated apps have data oftentimes stored in lists and event handlers that go along with it. We learned in here how to use an if-else block to check conditions. We'll see that revisited in Chapter 18. All right. We learned that the blocks and event handlers should refer only abstractly to list items. So in other words, we should be looking at lengths of lists rather than hard-coding numbers in. And finally, we noticed and learned how to use index variables to track down the current position of an item within a list. And that's pretty much it. In the next chapter, in Chapter 9, we are going to build a xylophone. All right, so we'll do some more work with sound and the like. I'll be back with that shortly.